Evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Manvel City Council workshop to order. We have 6 of 7 members present, and we have 2 budget presentations that are on the agenda for tonight. So the first one that we have is regarding human resources / our personnel department. So we will bring up our Director of Personnel, Mr. Chad Dumont, to give us his budget presentation. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I have the privilege tonight of presenting the very first personnel budget. As everyone is aware, when I got here in February of 21, the city didn't have an HR department. Luckily, we had a city secretary in Tammy Bell and a city manager, Kyle Jung, that had knowledge. Young, I know, he just spells it that way. They had a good understanding of human resources, so they were able to handle things as came across. As the city grew, and as we're constantly growing, so do the personnel issues. So they brought me aboard in 21. At that point, we had 53 employees. Today, we're hovering right at around 100 plus. The council made a decision in December of last year to move human resources and IT into one department under personnel. Now, the focus of that department was going to be the welfare of the city employees in Manvel, our internal customers, and also for customer support and customer service of those employees on the IT side. Today, we have 2 active divisions in personnel. We have human resources and we have IT. As we continue to grow, human resources is going to expand. That will expand into benefits. That will expand into learning and development, risk analysis. IT has the potential to expand. The development side, cybersecurity, as everyone is aware, with Microsoft decided to throw at us late last week. So we have those opportunities to expand this department as things grow. Currently, we have 6 employees. Myself, I'm the personnel director. Been with the city for 3 years. I bring together about 27 years experience on the HR side. Our newest employee, our HR generalist, Brianna Bob, just started in this position about a month ago, but she has over 3 years experience with the city. In that time, she was working with the courts department, and she was instrumental in putting together the teen court program that was able to win state in its very first year of existence. So I'm very proud and thankful to have her part of this department. We also have our IT manager, Patrick Bouchard. Now, Patrick's been with us a little over 2 years, but he brings in close to 14 years of experience working with the City Alvin ISD. Our system administrator, Bibin George, has only been with us a little over a year, but he spent 11 years experience in the private sector working in IT, brings a wealth of experience. Our cybersecurity tech, Joey Dearborn, been with us a little over 2 years, again, brings in close to 8 years experience working with Alvin ISD. And then last, we have our IT tech, Brian Long. He's only been with us for 6 months, but brings 20 plus years experience on the IT side. So we feel very confident with the staff that we currently have. So, human resources, what do we do? We've got down recruiting, staffing, training and development, employee relations, compensation and benefits, performance management, compliance, workplace safety, diversity, and inclusion. Basically, in a nutshell, Bree and I have to wear many hats every day. At any given time, we could be working with someone's benefits and have to pivot to working on an employee relations problem. We can be doing onboarding and have to pivot to working a workforce safety as far as workman's comp, taking care of that. We're constantly having to watch all areas to move to priority. Something that's not listed here is time management. Time management is essential for anyone in human resources because you're constantly looking at what your priority list is and what you can get done for the welfare of your employees. Next division is IT. Again, IT manages the support of infrastructure systems, services that enable the organization to operate efficiently and securely. Key functions are infrastructure management, public safety technology, cybersecurity, data management, tech support, project management. Now, at this time, I want to recognize what all has been done in the past 2 weeks from our IT department. We're going to start with the hurricane. We had employees here, many of us are in this room, that were here for 26 hours plus for the EOC. The IT team at that time was constantly working with our systems. We had a power problem. We had a generator problem. Each time the generators reset, everything in our server room went down. The IT team had to be Johnny on the spot, constantly rebooting everything in the server room, going around to computers, making sure that everything was done correctly. At no time was there anything on, I can't believe we have to do this. They were doing it, and they were being professional with that. And for that, I thank our team for that. The second is the snafu that just happened with Microsoft. A lot of our employees have not noticed that, everything is working correctly on their machines, not having issues. That's because our IT manager was up here for over 10 hours going around to all of the computers, making sure that this patch didn't mess around with everything on our computers. Again, thank you, Patrick, for taking care of that. Accomplishments in 2024. For the first two, I'm actually going to go back to the beginning of the fiscal year. So far, we've processed 26 new hires since October, and we've unfortunately had to process 12 separations in that fiscal year. Over the past 3 years, so far, we've processed 110 new hires and then 66 separations. Now, 66 separations sounds extremely high over 3.5 years. Over the past 2 years, that number has dropped to about 8 per year and 11 per year. For that has a lot to do with what the council has done for the staff, which I will get into a little bit later. The IT department has completed a multi-year project for our off-site disaster recovery facility, and with the police department, public works building all coming online here in the next year, this is a great accomplishment. This has been going on for many years. In fact, when I asked Patrick, he wasn't quite sure how long the previous manager had been working on it. He said it's been a while. IT also implemented an account policy to secure IT accounts and resources. Again, I'll touch upon that a little bit later. And one of our biggest assets that we put together was finally getting an on-site IT support team member at the PD station. This is something that I know the chief has wanted for a long time. We're finally able to make that happen, and I'm happy to say that Brian is doing an outstanding job working with the PD. Some challenges that we faced in 2024. Resecuring all of our IT accounts after IT management change. As you all know, we lost our previous IT manager last year. During that offboarding, we realized that we had some things to do as far as making sure that all of our accounts were secure, that we couldn't have former employees trying to log in or what have you. So Patrick and his team worked diligently on putting those systems in place to make sure that we were secure on the cybersecurity side. So that was a very big challenge. And lastly, on the HR side, employee retention and recruitment post-COVID. For this, I want to thank the council. One, during our budget of last year, the council adopted as far as the dependent insurance for employees. This was vital to us. We had a lot of employees that were struggling with the cost of dependent health care. And then just recently, with the adoption of our new personnel policy, the council also approved amending the number of days for personal leave and also approving paternal and maternity leave for our employees. Since that policy has been changed, we have 2 employees that will be utilizing that policy here within the next few weeks. And those employees are very thankful for that benefit. For the part that everybody is worried about or wanting to hear, we are not asking for any new personnel in 2024. I consider myself extremely lucky to have the HR generalist added a little earlier this year, and she is turning out to be a definite benefit. We are definitely moving forward with having her in that spot. IT is holding with what we have. There's currently 4 people in IT. With our numbers staying at around 100 to 120, right now we're holding off. Once we get into the 130, 140 range as far as employees, that's when we're seriously going to have to take a look on adding someone either on the HR side or the IT side. Unfortunately, we do have some system requests for 2024. The first one is a management tool system. Earlier today, we had the system listed on here. After consulting with the team, we've decided to take that name off for cybersecurity purposes. We don't want to put that out there just for folks to know what we're using for this. Basically, the system would be used for cloud-based ticket systems, cloud-based IT knowledge base, a central management system for all workstations, and remote support tools. This is going to allow our IT team to be able to virtually log in to all of our machines, regardless if they're here, they're on a business trip in Chicago, or what have you. With the VDI, they'll be able to go in and actually do this work. Now, unfortunately, the increase for this would be $32,000 for added on to our subscription and fees for IT. The second is a need. This is a replacement of all the servers at PD. We have multiple servers at the PD that are well past their replacement date. Moving into a new PD station, not having the new servers and going on old equipment is just not going to be a good combination. With that, we are looking at approximately $140,000 to replace those servers. The third is a reconfiguration that must be done for the new PD station. Again, with everything new, we have to reconfigure with what we have here at City Hall. This would be looking at a one-time fee of $25,000. And lastly, we have our renewal for our Citrix system. The Citrix system is a key component of our VDI, our virtual display environment. This is what everyone uses behind the dais. This is what we're using with the majority of our computers now, to where we can go in and take care of those issues. With that, I would like to thank everyone for for listening to this presentation. I'm here to answer any questions, and if we decide to go a little deep into the IT weeds, I've got my IT manager here as well to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that presentation. And thank you for coming in this past weekend and checking out all the computers and spending that time away from your family and your time of rest to do that. We appreciate it. Council, any comments, questions, feedback?
I got a question.
We will go Councilman Oplager, and then we'll go Councilman Lance.
So, Chad, do you ever see the two departments splitting and having an IT department head and then human resource separate departments? Eventually, as the growth goes?
As growth goes,
continuing being under HR?
Again, I could see this as the departments do grow. Right now, we're just at 6 people. So I don't see that as being a complete necessity at this time. But say IT was to get up to around 8 to 10 people, I could see that thought. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then as far as chief, I don't know, so in the moving and the building of the police station and new equipment, is that going to need new desktop computers and all that as well? Or is that just new servers that are needed?
Go ahead, Chief.
Yes and no.
Okay.
We are actually looking at the VDI system for a lot of our desktop use. Some of us, what they call are super users that have to have a standalone workstation. But for the most part, like our report writing rooms and our some of the different records and stuff like that, yes, we'll be using a VDI. But the components are looking at replacing our servers are outdated. Some of our servers, we just don't even have the storage capacity. Yeah. We have to upgrade our video servers. Don't even have the storage capacity for videos. So this is all new equipment that's coming in on stuff that should have been replaced several years ago, but we were just making do just by adding memory and stuff like that. So most of our computers will move with us when we make that transition because they've updated most of the computers through the administration and criminal investigations. But for the most part, that's just a part of what we're doing.
All right, so is that going to be this year? The station's going to be finished this year, or early next year?
It's scheduled completion in July of next year.
July of next year?
Yes.
But we need to buy the servers today, or is that because replacing the equipment this year would be advantageous, right? Is that what I'm hearing? So we don't want to wait till next year, do we? It sounds like we have a dire need for new servers.
At the PD station, yes.
Yeah.
Wait stands now, the PD network is entirely separate from City Hall, so they have their own set of servers for storage, their reporting software, video software, stuff like that. And they're antiquated and old at this point, and we would need to purchase it now so that we have the time to transition that data and configuration over to the new systems.
Okay.
If we waited until next year,
Be too late.
yeah.
Okay.
It would hold back moving into the new PD. if we
Okay.
did that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Chad, my comment is basically a question based off of what you brought up earlier, and this is as much a question probably to Dan Johnson as you, but you mentioned about the generator issues that we had during the hurricane. So is that something that we're looking into to prevent in the future? Because do we know the cause of that, or do we run out of gas, or?
No, I mean it's a natural gas generator, so it was just the automatic the automatic transfer switch. It would switch on and then switch off and then switch on. So yeah, that was one absolutely in our after action report. That was one of the very first things that we brought up because it came on, which was great, but then I guess we got power restored within minutes. Well, that's great. So then it shut off. I mean, so I don't know that it did anything wrong, but maybe we need to extend the amount of time that, hey, if we're going to connect, then stay connected for at least an hour or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, what is maybe the computer system, does it require a bank of batteries or something other to keep that from shutting on and off?
That's exactly what was happening.
Okay.
Each time this
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. So, thank you, Chad and Dan.
I just have one question about the needs for IT and the police department. Why wasn't it in that budget for like equipment, and rather it's in this one, or requesting it here?
Chief and I discussed it, and we just decided that the servers and stuff we would put onto IT's budget this year.
Okay. No real reason why, or?
Well,
Nothing's-
the reason, what we talked about is it's IT related, so we just let the IT take care of all of that and handle that aspect of it.
So was this not budgeted into the new facilities with all the millions of dollars that we?
That is something we were working on with the FF&E budget. But because of the need to get it now,
Okay,
we decided to go ahead and go in this direction instead of waiting until we get the FF&E budget running. That way they can start working on it to make that transition.
yeah, I understand that that's going to take some time and you want it to be ready to go as fast as possible, but I just wanted to know how come it wasn't in there to begin with, but thank you.
One question I got, on the servers that you're looking at and all this equipment you're looking at, how far ahead are we trying to size this for? So that 2 years from now, we're not having to do this all over again?
No, the equipment that we've spec'd out should, at minimum, be a 5-year use case for these servers.
Okay.
They could very well go beyond that, but that's a pretty good lifespan for servers.
Okay, good.
So what is the current servers that we have, what is their life at right now?
I don't have exact purchase dates on any of the hardware over there. Some of that's equipment over there was actually borrowed from Pearland PD, so it's kind of pieced together to be a functional unit for them. If I had to guess, I would say we're probably looking at 6-7 years plus on a lot of those servers over there.
Okay, because the reason I asked is you said that the servers are well past the replacement date. So I was wondering how we determined that they're well past the replacement date.
Our biggest indicator is we've had hard drives and parts fail, and it's becoming extremely hard to find new parts for them, is our biggest struggle. We've had to resort to remanufactured hard drives and things to be able to keep those servers up and running at this time.
How much would you say over the past year to 2 years you've invested in the current servers just to keep them up and running?
Sir, we would have to look that up.
What are you saying, north of $20,000, $30,000?
I don't think we've hit, tens of thousands, but the time it took to even find the components is really concerning. That 2 years from now, if we did move that equipment, we may not be able to find the failed components that could go out in them. So, I mean, if I had to guess, a few $1,000s we've had to spend on parts and components to keep them running.
And then for all of our IT equipment, do we have a depreciation and replacement plan for every piece of hardware?
Nothing solidified just yet. I'm looking to do at least a 5-year cycle on most of our equipment. Is a pretty standard cycling time.
Yeah, the average is 4 to 6 years, and servers, if you put them well, ventilate them well, run them well, you can get up to 10 years for it. For that 5-year cycle, how are you going to keep track of that? What tool are you going to use?
So in this past year, we've actually started inventorying all equipment so that we can keep track of purchase dates, age, models that we have. So that is another still ongoing project so that we can start tracking that data and making informed decisions on what we're purchasing.
That's great. Do you just use a spreadsheet for that, or do you use a software?
No, we're using a piece of software for it.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. One of the things that you called out there, Chad, which was great to hear, was the reduction in our turnover rate. Mm-hmm. I know a few years ago we were upwards of close to 40%. Mm-hmm. Our average for the past 2-3 years has been right at 10.6%. So that's a very positive sign because there's a lot of lost training and experience. There's also a lot of investment that's made in getting new employees up on board. So I was really happy to hear about that. Regarding the servers for the new PD, going back there for a second, if we include that in the equipment budget for the new police station, if we paid this $140,000 out now, would that be reimbursed back to the IT department from the police department budget once the equipment is secured, or are you guys having to take on this liability of $140,000?
Is that possible, Rosie?
No, it's still part of the general fund, both departments, so as long as it's from the general fund, it really doesn't matter. IT those equipment is being placed under IT because IT is going to be responsible for that equipment, not necessarily the police department. They'll maintain that equipment, they'll look over them, so ultimately they're responsible for it.
Okay. What are we looking at? Thank you, Rosie. What are we looking at right now in regards to open positions, Chad? How many open positions do we have that are posted?
So for open positions right now, unfortunately, we had another one that popped up today. We had a resignation. So we have a court clerk that we're in the middle of doing interviews. Hopefully that'll be filled soon. We'll have a utility billing clerk that will open as of tomorrow. We have 2 positions in Public Works that we're filling, a right-of-way inspector and also a utility tech. We have a fire inspector that's been open for a little while. It's still open. With PD, we're going to have a resignation take effect, retirement, excuse me, next week. So we will have an opening there in PD. And then our Director of Development Services is starting on the 29th of this month, so we'll be eliminating that position soon.
Okay, so total count, did I count that correct at 8?
Yeah, we're 7 or 8.
7, 8. And what is our total full-time employee count?
Total full-time, if we brought everyone on, would be right at around the 105 or 106.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's all the questions that I have. Thank you, Chad. Any other comments or questions from council? Anything to add, Manager Dan? No?
Are we going to get a copy of this?
Yes, and it's in your package as well.
Yeah, there's a barcode at the bottom of all of your
Scan that in, it
equipment.
logs into the system.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Nope, that's great. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Patrick.
All right, so next we will call up Miss Rosie to give us the finance department budget. How are you doing tonight, Rosie?
I'm doing great. How about yourselves?
Good.
Good evening.
Oh, 1 second, Rosie, before you start. Tammy and Chad, we might want to update the presentation that is posted on the city's website in regards to your department, because it does currently list the vendor's name for that software. The presentation you showed us does not list it, but what's posted online does list it, so you guys might want to take a look at that.
I'll get with Bree on that. We did make that change at around 1:30, 2 o'clock today.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure if she had a chance to do that, but we will.
All right, perfect. Thanks,
And
guys.
mine also has to be updated to make it current because we updated it about 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks, y'all.
Finance Department. What does Finance Department does? We safeguard and account for all the city financial assets. We currently have 4 divisions of the department, and it's run by 4 people. Payroll, accounts payable and purchasing, utility billing and collections, financials and budgets. And some of those are combined, and normally they would have been separate, but we have some checks and balances in place so that there's no problem with the auditors. Accounts payable and purchasing is done mostly by Brenda and now being trained to Tristan. Payroll is done by Brenda, and I'm starting to get cross-trained on payroll. Utility billing and collections is done by Tristan, Brenda, and now our open position. Financials and budgets are mostly done by myself. What does the utility billing and collections do? They import meter readings, they verify them, create and mail out bills, collect payments, and they serve our residents and the utility department employees. Budgets and financials. We enter required journal entries, review work done by team members, reconcile bank accounts, general ledger accounts, and create financials as needed. Customer service to our employees and different financial and governmental institutes. Accounts payables and purchasing. They add vendors, they process purchase orders, enter invoices, create payments to vendors, and they service our vendors and our employees. Payroll. They verify time cards are correct, process payroll, quarterlies, and W-2s. They service our employees and different governmental entities. Some of our major accomplishments in 2024. We completed the 2023-24 fiscal audit. We promoted Brenda to an accountant after almost 20 years for the city. We've implemented the water averaging for wastewater, created and completed a succession plan for department, was completed. Promoted Tristan to utility supervisor accounting tech. Our goals for the 4th quarter is to complete this budget and set up the new fiscal year. Finance does not have good metrics on how to measure growth in their duties. We can see increases in water payroll counts and vendor payments. As you can see, water has gone up from 1,600 accounts back in 21-22 to now currently at 1,870. Employees were at 69, now we're at 101. AP issued 1,508 payments in 2021-22 for the year. We're now year-to-date 1,389.
And Rosie, before you continue on, I know you're going to give us the overall budget summary. And so before we get to that, I want to focus specifically on your department.
Okay.
You guys are not asking for any software or any
No, sir.
staffing positions
No,
or
sir.
anything?
We already have our software. They had just bought that one right before I started. As a matter of fact, implementation was about 3/4 done, and I had to finish that one. We did get a new software, small one this year to help us keep track of the sales tax called SACTEX. So in personnel, we've just recently gone up to 4, and until I see these numbers increasing, I don't plan to ask for anyone else.
Okay, awesome. For the water and our utility ratepayers, how many of those, do you know how many of those pay through credit card, automatic payments, compared to how many actually come in and pay by check or anything like that?
We don't have too many people coming in anymore to pay in person. They'll either pay via phone, online, automatic debit, and now we even have e-check available.
Okay, great. And then how many water bills do we still physically send out?
We send out all of them, regardless of some of them going out email. We send out the paper one too.
Okay. Oh, so you still send out paper?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I might need to check my address then, because I don't know if I've ever gotten one. So we'll have to take a look at that. I am paying the water bill. I want to be clear. We're paying it
And
every.
most people who are computer savvy just go online, they look at their balances and they pay it. Unfortunately, not everybody does that. They like to come in person and pay. That's also welcome. I've tried to instill in my department that we're here to serve our customers with a smile and friendly no matter what. If they can't get that level of service, they're maybe in the wrong area.
How much do we have right now that's currently sitting as outdue payments or past due payments that we haven't collected on yet?
I would have to get back to you, but I know there's some accounts that have been closed that have never been paid, and they're just sitting there. We do have what we call an accumulated write-off that the auditor approves every year so that we can increase it based on those numbers, so it doesn't hit us financially hard.
And we shut off people's water if they do not pay?
Yes, sir, we do.
What's our policy for that?
If they go 3 months without paying, we shut them off. Like right now, they send out some warnings. They let out, actually, we send out an email. We even send out a letter. And Tristan actually calls these people up and lets them know, hey, you're at this level, you need to come in and pay, or you're going to get shut off. We do shut them off, and then they have to come back and repay us at full, and they'll get charged a reconnection fee.
Is 3 months normal, or is that, I mean, that seems kind of a little gracious to me if you haven't paid for 3 months.
It's about right, because think about it. By the time your first bill goes out, your second one is almost there already. And so by the time you're in delinquent status, it's the second bill. So by the third, by the third bill, it gets paid or disconnected.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rosie. Those are all the questions I have. Council, any questions or comments, feedback? Nope. All right, continue onward.
I've compiled all the department needs that I've heard throughout the presentations. Anything in blue is contingent to the hiring of some of those personnel. Green is personnel wants or needs. Total equipment they're requesting currently is at 1.1 million, and total labor is averaging at about 1.9 million. And that's including fringes and benefits and everything included in there. Budget milestones to come. We'll finish presentations. Did you have questions on?
So the street sweeper in 22,500,
Yes, sir.
does that, and we're going to try and figure out if the total was correct, or was it
It'll go up by the 200,000.
Okay. So that's 1 point,
3,
almost 4.
yes.
Okay. And then I had a question on, if we can ask questions about this slide.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yes, sir.
Down at the Dell Tough Book for Animal Control, is that 1?
That's correct. We already have one in our current. That is if we are approved for a second position.
Is this
That would be it.
some special Tough Book? Because I just bought one and the most expensive one I could find was like $2,500. So is there something special about this one that goes beyond the normal Tough Book?
It depends on the model.
The model and whatever software they might need
I
installed.
don't know, I just bought one that was explosion-proof, intrinsically safe. I don't know of any other bells and whistles.
Most of our tough books now are running anywhere from 3,000 to 3,500. Then you have to add in the docking and the docking stations with it, which usually run about $1,200 for the docking station and the mounts to dock them in a vehicle.
Okay, so that's not included when we see a line item for, like a new vehicle has a line item for equipment,
It usually falls under equipment, yes.
the docking station part of it. So this price doesn't include docking station, or does? That's.
I'd have to get back with you on it because
Yeah.
I really couldn't.
I'm just wondering about that one
I
deal.
don't even, what is the cost that you're seeing?
11,000. Keep in mind, a lot of these are estimates that they just went in there quickly, looked something up along with whatever software or equipment they might need.
Okay,
I would have to get back with you on that number. There might have been a typo.
it just seemed a little high. I was just,
That 11,000 is a little high for a computer. I agree with you.
okay.
That
That was the only two
Any other?
items I really had a comment on.
Good questions, Councilman. Any other questions regarding this list, Council? If we could also get the updated presentation for
I
this as well,
will,
Rose,
yes,
that you
sir.
mentioned. for-
And I'll
for the
update that
plan.
number also so that you can have the correct one.
So total budget requests on top of what exists today, these would be all new requests or increasements and increasing line items, is about what,
3.1, 3.3 if I add the 200 for the,
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
budget milestones coming up. Presentations should be completed today. July the 25th is when we should be getting the certified values due from the chief appraiser. July 29th, you'll have the fourth workshop, which will be presenting a preliminary budget at that point. August the 1st, preliminary budget is due to city council from city manager. August the 7th, calculation of the no new revenue and voter approval tax rate. And then September the 16th, tax and budget adoption date. Or in reverse, whichever.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Rosie. Thank you. A question for you. If we wanted to send a tax rate to the voters for approval, what date would that need to happen? Would we need to authorize that? Because this is, if we were to go with everything, which be fully transparent, of course, I think it's good to understand what the needs are. We're not going to be able to go with everything. But if you wanted to send a tax rate at the voter approval rate to the taxpayers, what is the cutoff date for that? So we all are aware. Has that already passed, or would that be at some point in August?
Has not passed yet, but I don't have the election calendar to answer that, but I can send that out via email.
Yeah, that'd be great just to kind of understand what all of the options are before us because if we're proposing adopting a tax rate on the September 16th, which would be the earliest I think a top tax rate has been adopted in the past few years, and that would be a testament to the legwork we've done over these past few months. Based off of that, we would need to know if it's something where we want to send a tax rate to the voters for approval or what we want to do there. Okay. Well, Council, we're going to be having the meeting on the 29th at 5 p.m. We're going to have a workshop regarding animal control. At 6, we'll then have an opportunity to kind of fully and comprehensively discuss the budget. But in the meantime, you got to stay up here, Rosie. We're not done. We might not be done yet. Do you have any initial questions, comments, or feedback for Rosie regarding what you can see right here in front of you? Councilman Lance.
This is a learning question here. Okay, so a prosecutor for the courts, is this, so this isn't a county prosecutor, this is a city prosecutor that works for the city?
Yes, sir.
On all city civil, legal issues? Is that how that works?
Well, David, and we haven't discussed that yet. I know Tammy put that in her presentation about having an assistant city attorney to act as prosecutor, but our admin was going to basically just go forward with what council we talked about at my eval with just a legal assistant, not an assistant city attorney to handle the prosecutor duties. So we haven't really discussed that with council in any length, but that's what it would be. And under the charter, council would have to authorize, and they actually would work directly for you, just like I do and Dan does. It would be appointed directly by the council if and when you choose to go with an assistant city attorney that would have those duties and other stuff. So, and I don't know if that's part of an admin's budget proposal or our presentation that we discuss that, or if that's just something separately I want to discuss to see where do you want to go with that? I mean, I'm assuming you wouldn't want to do both. So there's some pros and cons to each one, but that's what it would be structured under. Under the charter, it would be something you would have to authorize and hire.
And I think Councilman Lands, and correct me if I'm wrong, Manager Dan, if we wanted to go a prosecutor / assistant city attorney route, we could use some of our legal fee collections from citations or tickets that would offset some of that $150,000 salary.
What we're hoping that it'll offset is currently we are paying a large bill to another party attorney office that comes in and does a lot of the prosecutions. We're paying for small phone calls, for inquiries, quite a bit of money. So we're hoping that that will offset some of that prosecutor charges that we're currently paying.
And I was able to find out that time frame that you're asking, it's about 40 hours per month. So it would, not per week, per month, that they put into those emails and off-docket items.
And I think that total amount, Mayor Pro Tem, was like $60,000, something around that. So that could be a cost differential, so that $150,000 line item, Councilman, would reduce from 150 to
Let's say
90 if you
90,000.
did a salary of 150, if that's what the market did.
Well, that 150 I calculated with the fringe benefits too.
And Mayor, don't forget though, with the increase in work from the prosecutor, it usually means there's an increase in tickets, which means an increase of revenue. So the function should be more revenue, should be more cost to the prosecutor, but it also should mean more revenue that should pay for that. In other words, you shouldn't have greater cost for the prosecutor with the same amount of tickets you had before in revenue. So keep in mind though, it is a function of both.
Absolutely. Good question, Councilman. Councilman Bonner?
One other question, Rosie. The, under the personnel column, are all of those figures, is this salary and benefits?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm looking at the 24 planning calendar that the county sent out, and it shows that the deadline to call for an election is August the 19th.
So that would be in line with, okay, so I see. So adopted tax rate and budget would be September 16th. So you'd have to make that determination by the middle of August, but we'd have the tax rate calculations by then in order to judge what we'd want to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that basically, we've got to turn it around right away. We're going to go out for board approval.
Okay, sounds good.
Question.
1 second, real quick. Just one question, Manager Dan. I know Robbie's not here. What is a gooseneck for Public Works for $13,000?
It's a trim, yeah.
Oh, that's what they call it.
Yeah,
The ones
that's the
that literally
trailer.
look like a gooseneck, fifth wheel.
Yeah, fifth wheel.
Oh, okay. I know
Very-
they call
very
it that.
similar, yeah.
No idea.
I'm drying it.
Sounds good. All right, thanks. I was just curious if it was something. I didn't know what it was. If it's
It's
like the clear culvert,
basically-
like a gooseneck that goes underneath there. I was
It's a
trying to figure
flatbed
that
that'll
out.
be able to carry a little bit more because since it uses a fifth wheel.
Perfect. So we'll go Mayor Pro Tem Sarmiento, and then we'll go Councilman Lance.
So my question last year when we looked at budgets was, does the current tax rate cover everything we're asking for? So looking at this, it's an increase of roughly 3 million if we were to say yes and go stamp everything without nickel and diming everything. So I see your smile, so I guess you've done that analysis. So based on your forecasting and projections, where would we be if we adopted and everything stayed the same?
I honestly don't think we'll be able to get everything. I think, if I remember correctly, on the preliminary I had given you, we only had like a surplus of 2 million.
2 million.
And that was even before the homestead exemption. So now, once I get those numbers, I can get a better number.
Okay. So
So we'll
it
have to make
sounds
some hard
like,
decisions, yes.
it sounds like it's going to be, we're going to have to do some creativity, have some creativity. Well, yeah, and last year when we had this conversation, the big topic and hope that we had was the values, the certifications, all of that would hopefully start to offset. The HEB was coming, only to find out that we don't really get as much from there. So I'm struggling with that because we were hopeful for all these things and said, let's just adopt it and we'll be able to get that. And so I would really like to see what it would look like if we calculated everything by then with the tax rate, so we have an educated decision so that the public knows as well.
Well, the Friday, the budget will be presented. Went on by itself. The budget will be presenting the preliminary one. That's going to be based on whatever the preliminary estimate had on the property tax, minus a 10%. I'll do the minus 10% based on whatever calculation I had done, multiply it by the current rate, and then we'll be able to see how much we can spend. And I guess I'm gonna have to sit down with each department this week, and they have to tell me what's an actual need and what's a want. And we'll go
Exactly.
with the needs first, and then the wants come in later.
Yeah, I'd like to see that if we could, like the priority. I know everybody's going to go high and ask for everything. I think that's a smart thing to do, so at least we know where we really stand. But I also know that if we prioritize the absolutely critical things that we need, what that looks like, in a perfect world, we would get everything, but the critical and what's not critical.
And I'm supposed to start meeting with the departments this week, so that'll help get a good number by Friday. Also, we're gonna see if we can get some of the smaller items in this year's budget, just like I did last year.
It keeps turning on this sound.
Throw it across the room.
It's possessed.
That is, that's funny.
I'll turn off this one.
We have a hand mic. We need it.
Okay, there.
It has static.
It
It
has
must
too
be
much
the battery.
And I turn there,
That one.
but that one keeps coming on by itself.
Maybe, oh, you can't move it?
Brooke, the other one's
Plug it?
giving us a lot of static, so don't turn it back on.
So what I would like to see, I know council would probably like to see it as well, is if we didn't change the tax rate and it stayed the way it was, what can we get out of it? And side-by-side comparisons so that our residents know exactly, you know, what, and if we have to go and put it before the voters, at least they'll know why.
I will do that for you, and I'll also put, red, brown, green, whatever the, primary ones, the secondary and third
Critical, wants, needs, shoulds, could have, would have.
dreams.
All right.
I'll do that for you. Unfortunately, we do have to present you a budget on the 1st.
Of course.
So Dan and I will probably have to sit down with the department heads and decide which one is priority.
Yeah. So on the 1st, we're going to see the preliminary budget. On the 25th, we get the certified values. So you'll have 5 days to do your magic. And then we will see this on the 7th. Is this what I'm reading? Am I reading this correctly?
That's
We'll
when
be able
we'll
to
find
see-
out whether we need to go to voters approval, or we can just adopt the same rate we have right now.
Okay, so on the 1st, is that when we're looking at to be able to get the numbers of the critical and
Yes,
if
sir.
where we're at
Yes, ma'am.
right
I'm
now?
sorry. Yes, ma'am.
It's okay. So that's when we will be able to see where we're at and what we need, what's critical, what's not.
Yes.
And if we can make it happen where we are now, or if we can adopt some other.
And I'm going to include some of these wants already in my on the budget, and I'll let you know I've included this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Okay.
Because there were needs, extreme needs versus just.
Critical, yeah. Okay.
Some answer, Dan.
Just to qualify real quick, so the 29th is actually, so the calendar, if you're looking at the calendar in the PowerPoint, that's the old one. The one that, can you pull the PowerPoint back up, Rosie, by chance?
Well, I have it up, but here, I guess on the
Okay,
screen.
well, next Monday, the 29th, that's whenever, what we're hoping to have sort of the draft budget ready for y'all to look at next Monday, okay? But it's technically due by the.
It's technically due on the 1st.
Right,
Okay.
according to the charter. So that's what, the first is the deadline. So the difficult part, and for 12 years, obviously Kyle had to do that. That's not the easy part, and I'm sure no city manager likes to do that, because you're telling department heads that have implored upon you how much they need this thing or these people. So that's always been done. The difference last year and this year is that y'all have got to hear firsthand those same wants and needs and requests and dreams, I guess, that it won't just be me. So it's going to be a tough thing. So what we'll all have to sit down together and say, okay, what are we going to cut? And then, I ultimately have to make those hard decisions and bring them to y'all. And y'all agree with this, or, hey, no, Will, I understand why you did that, but we really want this instead of this, and that's, so I'll try and take some of that burden off of the council, obviously, to bring it to you so that we can, present you with a budget that we think would work, assuming now. The reason there's so much time between August 1st and then whenever the actual budget, there's almost another month and a half, Rosie?
Yes.
Because then we're still waiting on the no new and we're waiting on all these other things. So we'll still have time to tweak it. This isn't a line in the sand, but it's, for whatever reason, that's in our charter, this August 1st deadline. So.
We're in a pickle because we're in an
Yep.
inflation year.
Yep.
Costs are going up for all of us. We just spent, I don't even want to say how much on groceries today. It was devastating. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so I know that we're catching up, because this is what the topic we had last year. We're catching up, right? We're catching up. We never raised taxes. We didn't do this. Now we're hitting inflation. Now we're coming off of a storm. Now we have to do storm debris. Now we have to do all these things. And so I think I love the fact that we're transparent with the public. That's amazing. But I also know that we can't compromise on trying to be creative in ways this is going to be a tough year, unfortunately. It's tough for everyone at home. It's going to be tough on us. And so I hate to say that, because last year we were in a different place, but hopefully when these, the property taxes come through, we can see where we are. But thank you so much for that. I would like to see those numbers. I know all of us do. Thank you,
very much,
guys.
Tim. Councilman Lance?
Okay, so forgive me for my simple math, but last year we had like 600 and something thousand in one-time line items, correct?
Yes, capital.
So that is not going to be in the budget for this year. That's 600,000.
That'll cover some of this stuff.
Right. Basically, I'm looking at backing that out from last year, because so that 600 could go towards this is kind of what I'm visualizing, if we maintain the same thing as last year, right?
Yes.
And also, I'm assuming that some of our positions, and I think I've asked this last year too, and I was I was still kind of in the dark on what I was told. We have positions that are open, they're not filled. We have the money budgeted for that position. So that money that is sitting somewhere in an account, ready to hire that person. We did not hire that person so that money is somewhere. So
Yes, sir.
where does that money go at the end of this fiscal year?
It'll go back to our fund balance.
It'll go back to the fund balance.
Yes.
So we need to look at how much money we have from unhired people throughout the year and see what that can be done to buy some one-time expenditures.
And that is one of the things that we'll be sitting down with the department heads this week to see what we can buy. As a matter of fact, Chief and I had that conversation today. We can buy with this year's budget. So we're going to start freezing their spending so that we can get a good number of what's still out there and what needs to be paid. That way we can buy some of the smaller items if we
Right.
can, or maybe even some of the mid-size items.
Well, it seems to me like that 600,000 from last year, plus the people that we didn't hire throughout the year, that may put a pretty good dent in what we're wanting to do. For at least some one, now the going forward with employees, I understand that you really can't look at that. But the individual items we can look at.
Yes,
It's just a
sir.
one-time purchase.
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as employees, one thing that I do have a question on, I see, we have Public Works and we have Utility. They're separated.
Yes, sir.
And the utility has 2 heavy equipment operators, and Public Works has 2 heavy equipment operators.
One is the utility fund, which is basically your water, your wastewater, and all of that. And the other one's Public Works, which is funded out of the general fund. That's your streets, your parks, your drainage,
Okay. Is the utility, that's,
a separate fund?
but that's like combined with Public Works, right? I mean, it's.
No.
There are 2 divisions under Public Works.
Under
yes, sir.
Public Works.
Yes, sir. But they're, like she said, so they're mini excavators and whatnot to dig up water lines and water main breaks and those kind of things.
That's just one thing that kind of did catch my eyes. 4 heavy equipment operators for our 2 departments.
We've got some significant catching up to do in Public Works. I don't know if you were here for that presentation that Robbie did.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. So the gap is growing continually, so we need to catch up. Because what happens now is when there is a water main break, then all the guys from streets and drainage drop what they're working on already, and they come over to help, which is great, but then that project's not happening anymore.
Sure.
So we're trying to build up more teams, more crews.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you can't, even though you have the positions that haven't been hired, you can't roll over that money to use on something else because you still have those wants for those positions, correct?
You can at the end of the year, like right now, because we know we're not going to use it, we can roll it over to another line item. In other words, like capital, so we can buy whatever equipment we need.
So at the end of the year, you decide you don't need those people?
No, we still need them, but we'll budget at full amount again like we had.
Oh. Okay, so those numbers are really included in this budget line
Yes,
item here?
yes, sir.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
All right. Well, what I'll say is, to speak, Mayor Pro Tem, to your point, Manvel is over-leveraged as it relates to development agreements. Through these incentives, through these agreements, these 380 agreements, they're good and they're useful, but they've encouraged so much growth that we don't have the revenue coming into the city, regardless of what tax rate is adopted, in order to keep up with that growth. So that's why when people reach out to me, I say we are not inclined to give any sort of incentives away unless it's something that really benefits Manvel, because right now we're struggling to keep up as it is. And what I love about how we're presenting the budget, and Rosie, what you've done in the department heads, is it shows the residents of Manvel how we are having to make difficult decisions just like you are at your kitchen table. We are feeling the impacts of the current economy. We are feeling the impacts of what's happening in our nation. And while I wish we could give every single thing that the department heads have asked for on this list, we're having to make cuts as well. And I think being transparent and accountable to the public, that way they know where their tax dollars are going, helps build the bridge of trust. And so I want to say thank you, Rosie, Tammy, Chad, Chief, Dan, Bobby, everybody that presented their budgets and helping inform us and the public as to what's happening there. So we have 2 minutes here, Council. We'll kind of reset for the joint public hearing, get PD and Z up here. We'll do the joint public hearing, and then we, Council, will close that, step away, and let PD and Z continue. Rosie, thank you. We'll have a fun meeting on Monday. So we will close this City Council workshop at 5:58 p.m.